I just have to make this video. Sometimes when your heart feels burdened, your mind is burdened, when you feel pressure, you just need to talk about it. You just need to speak it out loud. And what has been really burdening my heart the last few days has been everything I've been learning about what's happened in the American education system. I can tell you, if you haven't been bothered to learn about the way that you've been trained and conditioned, because that's exactly what the education system has been doing, is training and conditioning us to become unable to hold intelligent conversations, unable to focus, constantly distracted, with an attention span now lower than 8 seconds. You know, I had my suspicions as a young teenager that this was more than just an accident, because I grew up a good portion of my childhood in Europe and got to go to school there. By the time I reached American high school, and I'd already been in high school in England, I was really shocked. I was really shocked at how terrible the education system was that I was experiencing versus what I had experienced. I went to a relatively good high school in England. I went out of my way to go to that high school with my friends in the neighborhood, and then the high school I went to in Pensacola, Florida was supposed to be one of the better high schools. It was Pine Forest. But I remember by the age of 15, 16, just looking at how incredibly dull, lifeless, insignificant school was, how the way we were being taught versus what I had experienced elsewhere was just out of step somehow with what I knew it should be. And I saw the way that the emphasis was on children's personalities for, you know, fitting into cliques, and wasn't about actually exploring topics and education and developing yourself as a person, developing the human mind. It was just learning information to memorize it so that we could take a test. And there was something insidious about that. And I started learning about the education system, and I discovered that since the 1960s, even earlier, but since the 1960s, there was this huge increase, like 500% increase in the amount that was being spent by the government on education, and in direct correlation with the amount of money that was being spent, the amount of bureaucracy that was being used to control and create education in this country. In direct correlation with that was the downward trend of our academic capabilities. You could see this on a graph and actually look at the level of literacy, math, even the standards of education. Even though they got weaker, even though they've gone down, meaning it's easier to make a better grade, we are getting dumber still than where we were. And it's no accident that they've done studies, 3 major studies in the US, showing positively, without a doubt, standardized tests do not actually represent what you know, period. And yet this not only has been the main form of testing our knowledge in schools, to where kids are put under pressure to have to memorize answers so that teachers spend the majority of their time, instead of educating, they're teaching to a test. Not only do we know that is absolutely counterproductive, but now we have a government movement to create national standards through Common Core and the like that would standardize across the board, taking control from even local school boards to change their standards, which is already an absolutely pathetic model for education. It's not education, it's indoctrination, guys. Then you discover the fact that right now we have a society that is so incapable of thinking for themselves, of thinking critically, of creating solutions outside of needing, of being dependent on our masters, on our corporate managers, on the government, that they would look at this, and even a lot of people, thinking people today would look at this and say, look, people aren't capable, look how dumb we are. People aren't capable of handling life, or handling liberty and freedom. We need the experts. We need the managing class. And guys, the sickening part to me that pisses me off is that deep within each one of us, regardless of your race, regardless of your creed, regardless of color or social status, that is not true. The reason why we are like we are today, and we are in a fucking sad state of affairs, is because we have been trained to be this way. It has been intentionally done because those who have sought to profit, corporations, multinational corporations, and power brokers and bankers that actually funded the education system in the early 1900s, they spoke very clearly about what education was about. And it wasn't about you and me being able to be productive and independent and fulfill lives that were valid to ourselves, that expanded our ability to create solutions and to pursue lives that we wanted. Education was about creating a class of people who would be the managing class, and the vast majority of the class to be those who can't be trusted to think for themselves because they're incapable of anything more than filling in the jobs that these massive corporations knew would be needed. And at the same time, while they created a bunch of helpless workers to where now education is about teaching you to, they say the goal of Common Core is to be college and career ready. What a joke. What a joke. Yeah. See, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs in early American history were a real threat to the biggest business establishment. They realized, I'm not even going to go into all that. You can find it out for yourself. I highly recommend that you watch a series of videos from John Taylor Gatto. He was one of the most prestigious educators in America. He was a high school, middle school teacher who was recognized 3 times in the state of New York, the Teacher of the Year. He won all kinds of awards, and after he got all of his awards, he quit because he couldn't do it any longer, partly because the pressure that was placed upon him. Most of the ways he taught were completely unconventional according to the system and even illegal, and under the attention he got, he couldn't do it anymore. And he came out with the underground history of the American education system, or schooling system, I think is what he calls it, because he says it's not education, it's schooling. And it is not a secret, guys. It is very well right in front of your face if you'll only look. But reading and the power of reading and the power of research for yourself, we've been so dumbed down that we're so intellectually lazy. We just want everyone else to do it for us. We just want to hit a button, watch a show, somebody else tell us, because it's too much effort to concentrate enough and focus to even develop the life the way you know you want it. And I'm telling you guys, it's by design, and it pisses me off that the people behind this have such a low view of common folk. They consider us useless eaters, that people that are merely meant to fill the cogs in the machine and to provide the fodder to continue the system as it's always been and not question it, not create anything different, to stay in line. It breaks my heart to see how far we've come, where now we have the government actually producing policy papers and trying to pass laws where they'll take care of your kids. Yeah, there's community schools that'll be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And for parents that can't take care of their kids because of how irresponsible parents are, the government needs to take care of them. By the way, they're not your kids, they're our kids. They're the government's kids. They're saying in this latest bill that they're trying to pass that parents are, quote unquote, equal partners with the state. Equal partners. But in reality, unequal, because we don't get to say no to their home visitations that they're wanting to do, to check up on the health and well-being of your kids. Oh man, some of you, that may even sound like it makes sense until you realize what it actually means. Yeah, right now in Common Core, the databases that they've been setting up to track your children, not just their academic scoring on tests that are absolutely convoluted, but they're doing psychological evaluations of your children, their political beliefs, their parents' political beliefs, their religious affiliations, what they think, how they feel, their behavior, their attitudes. They're tracking all of it, putting in databases that are accessed by numerous agencies and available to corporations. There's even video of a press conference at the White House where one of the guys behind the data mining of our children is gleefully talking about all the products, all the new consumer opportunities that are going to be created from all this data that they're gaining on your children and their parents. And all of this is happening in front of our face. It's not some far out idea, I hate the word conspiracy theory, the way they've used that to condition you to accept the system, because anything that is not in the box is labeled conspiracy theory, so that you automatically have a knee-jerk reaction, even if the so-called conspiracy theory is in black and white print, written with their signature on it. Even if you can show it right in front of your face, they're doing these things, and yet we're too occupied with what the mainstream media uses to divide us. Right now, one of their favorite occupations, and it's not just the media, it's the government, is use race relations to keep us divided, to keep us misdirected from what's going on, instead of unifying for the common goals that affect us all, instead of unifying to realize that the people that are behind this misdirection are fucking us all. Instead, we will be busy arguing with each other, fighting over irrelevant details that don't change anything, that are like mental masturbation, that just fuck off with, because to have any real conversation about real change isn't even allowed. That kind of thinking is disregarded. Most people can't even think past the lower third graphics that pop up on CNN and Fox News that tell you how to think, tell you how to feel. And I think about my children. I think about what I want for them. And I want so desperately to give them more than I think I'm capable of, because I am also one of the people that grew up in a society that conditioned and indoctrinated me. In my early 20s, I broke out of it and started learning a lot and created my own education. And from there, you know, I became self-employed and have my own business, and I teach my children from a young age to think about working for themselves rather than working for someone else. I believe entrepreneurship and creating our own businesses is a key to not only our economy, but to our own mental health. But I know that what I want to give my kids versus what I have available to me, I'm going to do the best I can, and yet I know that I have to press in to learn. I have to press in to educate myself further. I have to press in ways that my lazy ass doesn't want to, because I've just been too comfortable. I wasn't pressed to have to discover and figure out freedom. It was all just handed to me in a microwavable dish that after a few minutes I hear the bell and I get what I want. We call that freedom. My heart's burdened. I think we need to create small communities of self-educated people. We need to create small communities of people that want to know, that want to discover truth, that care enough. A big part of this whole indoctrination that we're dealing with is that we're being systematically conditioned to not care about anything. I mean, even when I was a kid, what was the most cliche statement is, I don't care. That statement is so pathetic. What it says about the value of your life, what it says about the value of this incredible experience. And you think that's your own idea. That's the most insidious part, is you think it's your own idea to say you don't care, or to say any number of things that you think about the world or how it works, your positions on politics, the majority of which have been fostered over a long period of time, whether you fall on the left or whether you fall on the right, it doesn't matter. We have to care, guys. And I know for me, it took a personal crisis to change my life, unlike any other. I hate the fact that that's usually the case, and I know it is. What is it going to take for us in this country? What is it going to take to rattle the core, to shake us out of this indoctrination and conditioning that keeps us asleep, that keeps us a slave to the latest BuzzFeed video, to the latest status update, to how many likes we got on a post we cared about? I think we need to start small meetings of people that are free to explore and for important issues like what I'm talking about with the education system, where it is documentable, completely documentable what is going on. What has led to the system we have today? What is leading to the downfall of the intelligence of our people? Yeah, those who want to say, well, we're just dumb, we need these managers, we need these social experts. Guys, the plan has been there for a long time. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's plain fact. You can read it from Woodrow Wilson's address, where he specifically tells the board of the National Education Board or New York Education Board, I can't remember who they were, that we were going to create two classes. One that was a class of managers and a far greater class of workers that aren't thinkers. You can look at many, many people involved, the Rockefeller Foundation. You can listen to their speeches. You can read the books they wrote. You can actually look at the reports that were created by the government back in the 60s that talked about a transformational shift in education that would create people that were unable to think for themselves, but that they would have every opinion crafted for them, unable to create their own opinion. Actually written in these documents, guys. I think we need to have groups of people that come together to learn this stuff, to not talk about theory, I'm not interested in the shit we don't know. I'm interested in what we do know. And from there, we can begin to create and use our creativity to fashion a future that more aligns with the goals and the dreams of our heart. But we can't dream a new dream when we're still asleep living out their dream. That's it. I know this has been way too much. You can check me out. I've been trying to get out some stuff on ditcherbox.com, but I'm telling you guys, we have to wake up. You need to realize that your life matters and that you are worth it. You are worth spending the time to educate yourself and your family. Our families are worth it. Our children deserve more than what we're giving them and what this society and the so-called experts, the bureaucrats that profit from keeping us asleep. Our children deserve more. Our children deserve more.